Hi, I'm Darren, and this is how I do it. I got hired at the Hyatt as a cook 3. Once I got there, they weren't doing very many ice carvings. It seemed like the chef at the time there didn't do ice carvings. No one did ice carvings in the whole hotel, so they really tried to avoid it. But it wasn't long before another executive chef came in, and his name was Chef William Herngruber, and he was an ice carver. So he started doing these ice carvings that completely changed the game. I could not believe the things he was doing. He was doing multiple blocks and he was stacking them. I've never seen that ever before. Once again, I learned so much from him, I learned by just watching. It's not like he explained to me at all anything. He just carved, and I took the time to watch him. So Kazu was the first chef that I watched him, and I learned a lot. But this next chef, Chef Willie, he really showed me a whole new dynamic that can be done with ice. What's interesting is, like I said, my goal was to become a garde manger chef, and within that 1 year when I started, I got promoted 3 times in 1 year. I got promoted to a cook 2, cook 1, and I was a cook 1 for about 1 month, and they offered me an assistant garde manger chef, and I was so excited, and I snatched it up. I said, sure, I'd love to do that. Little did I know how challenging that would be, but I look back now and I'm so glad that I did, because I got to learn from being an assistant chef and then ultimately becoming a garde manger chef. I got to learn so much that I would have never learned if I stayed a cook. And it was tough. It was hard work, but I don't regret any of it. I worked under the existing garde manger chef, and I worked under 2, but it wasn't long before they left, and I took on the role of the garde manger, even though I still was an assistant garde manger title. So after a year or so, I approached the chef and I said, "Hey, chef, I'm doing the job. Do you think I deserve the title for the garde manger chef?" And he agreed, and that's what happened. Within 2 years, I got my garde manger chef title. I loved every minute of it. It was great. The Hyatt was a great experience. We did so much ice. We did ice carvings and all the garde manger things that you can imagine. Melon carvings, vegetable carvings, pâtés, terrines. It was great. It was a great experience. I learned so much. But I did that for 5 years. So I was there for 5 years at the Hyatt. Because you see, this whole time while I was in the hotels cooking, there were my friend, like I said, Kazu, and another very good friend of mine, Sean, who I'll share more about later. But they were doing carvings for a lot of functions outside of their hotels that they worked at. And I thought, man, I would love to do those carvings, be one who someone would contract to do carvings, because they were doing them all. I was too busy as a chef. I didn't have the time to carve functions outside of my hotel. But then something began to grow in me, the thought of actually having an ice carving business. And I had to wait on that, but I didn't wait too long, because after 5 years at the Hyatt, I wanted to prove to myself that I could be a garde manger chef in anywhere, not just the Hyatt. So an opportunity came up an opportunity for a garde manger chef position came up at a hotel on the Big Island. It was the Hilton Waikoloa. It's an extremely premier hotel. The Hyatt was also a 5-diamond hotel. The Intercontinental was also a 5-diamond hotel. But I wanted to prove myself, so prove it to myself that I can be a garde manger chef anywhere. So I took on that job, and I went to the Hilton Waikoloa. And boy, was that a challenge. It was twice as big as the Hyatt, and twice as busy. And I did twice as much ice in the same amount of time. I was there for just over a year. And in that time, I learned so much. And it was a great experience. And I fulfilled my 1-year commitment. Commitment was to myself, it wasn't to the hotel. I said I would stick it out for a year, which I did. But then it really began to burn in my heart to start a ice carving business. I accomplished my goal of becoming a garde manger chef, and I felt that I had a new goal, and that was to start my own ice carving business. So at the time, I wanted to move back to Maui, but I did not want to move back to a hotel as a garde manger chef. I wanted to step down back to a cook so that I'd have the time to start my business. What was interesting was, you know, I probably could have gotten a job at the Hyatt where I left, but I wanted a new hotel to work at. Some friends of ours asked me, well, what do you really want? And I said, well, you know what, I'd really like a Cook 1 position at the Grand Wailea. And they said, you know what, then let's just pray for that. And at the time, the Grand Wailea had a hiring freeze. They were hiring no one, and there was no Cook 1 position in the garde manger department. But I had faith to believe. So we prayed, and I prayed, Lord, if you open up a door for me to have a position as a Cook 1 at the Grand Wailea in the garde manger department, I think that'd be great. I stuck it out for a couple of extra months, but ended up leaving the Hilton Waikoloa and starting at the Grand Wailea as a Cook 1. I remember the orientation. There was no orientation. It was just me. And the human resources thought it was very odd that how did I get hired during a hiring freeze. But all I can say is God is good.